My name is Thompson-James, and this is the case study for AEP 858. To summarize the case, there is a decline in student attendance at Golden Oak High School, which has 965 students. There are various types of students included in these absences. Parents are submitting notes on behalf of their students to excuse them from school, and there are inconsistencies in the school staff in enforcing the absence policies. Legally and ethically speaking, we do have some issues in this case. Parents' patry is a legal obligation for schools to enforce child attendance. Students are missing valuable learning time, which is an ethical issue. Teachers are not enforcing school policy, an ethical issue. And we are allowing non-parents to submit letters to excuse their children, which is, again, an ethical issue. Student absences are rising at Golden Oaks High School, and it is prompting questions about staff enforcing the attendance policy. The people in this case are male and female high school students of multiple socioeconomic statuses and unidentified races. There are parents who are submitting letters on behalf of their students for a variety of reasons. Some seem kind of valid, but some are definitely not. Teachers and coaches, again, are involved in this because some of them are enforcing the attendance policy and some are not. There's a church minister involved in this case who has submitted a letter to excuse a student, and that should never have been allowed. And the administration are also involved in this because it is their job to fix the situation. Again, this is at Golden Oaks High School, which is in a suburban location. It said that most of the parents either commute to the city for work or they own small businesses in town. And again, this is a public high school. Various courses are affected by the absences and is occurring in grades 9 through 12. To review the information, there are effects on the stakeholders. So education is vital to the welfare of the community, and this can be damaging to the stakeholders in the community because if they are not educated, then they are not going to be valuable citizens. They might be poor employees. They might not be prepared to raise families. They just won't be prepared for life outside of high school. Student performance affects school accreditation as well, so that could be another damaging issue to a stakeholder. If students are not in school to learn what they need to learn, that could affect their state assessments and other types of scores, which could affect school accreditation. And the school needs to update the attendance policy, and they need to have all the stakeholders involved in that. As of right now, the school hasn't consulted all the stakeholders in this. They haven't consulted community or parents or guardians or anything like that. They just address the issue within the school itself. So moving on, they will need to consult stakeholders to make sure that everybody is on the same page for the attendance policy and making sure that students are getting to school. We have some options and consequences. The first option is to take no action and just continue doing everything as it has been. That would be allowing parents or guardians or non-parents guardians to excuse students from school and just don't change the policy. The next one would be the most comprehensive one, where you make a stricter policy and enforce it with completely no exceptions. And then the third thing is the intermediate one, and that would be you update the policy, you enforce teacher compliance, you allow students to be excused by their parents for a set number of days. In this new policy, it might need to be a few more days than what the old policy was, and provide remediation for students that have high absences. So we've identified the three options that we have to fix the attendance at our school. Looking at the pros and cons of those options. The no action, the pro with that would be that there would be less work for the school staff. They would just continue doing what they're doing, and they wouldn't have to change anything. It would be super easy for them. The downside of that, though, is that student performance could get worse, and school accreditation may be in jeopardy because if students are not coming to school, they're not getting prepared for the content, and then also that could be a detriment to state assessment scores and, again, affect school accreditation, and then that could create a poor reputation for the school. The most comprehensive option, pros, student performance would improve and the school reputation would improve. The downside of that is that there would be more work for staff because they're going to have to work a lot harder to implement it. And that could also create displeasure from the teachers because they're not getting their way like they used to have. And then it could be difficult to enforce because, again, it's just so much more work to contact parents and implement those decisions. And then possible decline in enrollment because students may go to different schools. Parents may pull their kids out of the school because it may be too strict, so they're going to find a school that is less strict. And the intermediate pros would be that it could improve performances and you might create a more professional staff. The downside is that it will not get all students. There will still be parents that are going to allow their students to miss school for a variety of reasons. And it's going to take time to draft a new policy as well. They're going to have to do a lot of research to make sure that they find the best options, the best number of days that students can miss, the best way to implement the policy is going to take some time. So I believe that number 3 was the best option. I would like to do the most comprehensive option, but I really don't see that there's a lot of difference between the most comprehensive and the intermediate. But for this intermediate option, you need to update the policy, enforce the policy, and then monitor the policy to ensure that it is working. So to implement this, I would form a committee to review the policy that we have and then draft a new one. So I would allow input from non-committee members. If you're not on the committee, you could give your input to a committee member and then they'd bring that back to the meeting and discuss that. Distribute policy to parents and guardians. And it might have to come in a variety of ways. That might have to come in a letter to parents, social media posts, discussing this maybe at a back to school meeting or gathering type of night. But parents and guardians definitely need to be informed of the new policy and saying that, no, you cannot take your student out of school for 2 weeks, even regardless of how cool the trip may be for them. You need to train teachers on taking attendance, and you need to enforce that. If teachers aren't doing their job, that's something that we need to look at. Do we want this teacher in our school if they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing? Then you need to monitor the performances, the performance records. And this is like what the whole class has been about, is gathering data. So this is where that data comes in. You need to monitor, are students coming to school more often? And if they are their academic performances improving as well? And then reevaluate the policy and the data from the new policy at the midpoint of the year and then again at the end of the school year. And that really concludes my presentation. Again, I think creating a new policy, monitoring the data from that policy is going to be crucial in improving the student attendance at Golden Oak High School. Thank you.